So thank you, everyone. Today is June 19th, 2024, and this is Prime Hour for June 2024. Thank you so much for being here. If you've been to Prime Hour before, and some of you have, and some of you have not, you know that Prime Hour is an unstructured time. Amy and I, right now, we don't have any specific topics for us to talk about. It's really a moment for us to come together as a community and bring what's happening. What are the challenges? What are the things that we're grateful about happening in our coaching journey, and the opportunity for us to learn from each other. That's the bottom line here. It's really an opportunity for us to gain from the wisdom in the room and be able to support each other in the coaching journey that we have. So the way we usually do is, it's still a small group, and I think that we can go around the room and quickly share, introduce ourselves and share where you are calling from. And perhaps there is one topic or one thing that is top of your mind regarding coaching that you would like to put on the table for us to entertain.
I'll just say, what's your hot topic? I'm going to capture all this while you guys are talking. So,
Amy, where are we going to go here today?
I need to look in my little magic ball here of what I'm hearing thematically. So, here's what you guys. What I'm kind of capturing here is what I wrote down was radical truthing. And with ourselves as coaches, but also how do we maybe get a little edgier with our clients? How do we say what needs to be said without alienating them or making them wrong? Or and I'm kind of looking at everything everybody said, except for Eric with the group coaching. But that, of course, that plays into, and Angela, you put kind of the cherry on top with criticizing yourself. How do you become truthful with yourself in how you speak to yourself, right? So I don't know, does that hit a chord with anybody?
Well, yeah, I'm curious, everybody, the way Amy wrap this up, how does that resonate with you based on what you heard from everybody else?
I think the introspection piece, reflecting on who we are in our coaching engagements, that's how I'm interpreting maybe what you mean by radical truthing.
Yeah, or maybe that wasn't the right word. I just wrote it down, or the right phrase, because it's not really radical and it's not really our truth, but how do we have these edgier conversations? I look to Ed. How do you challenge them versus just offering up answers? How do you stop solutioning and really challenge the client? For hint, with David, how do you say that to people? Hey, I'm learning too, right? But still show up as a professional. So it's maybe how do we push ourselves as coaches to be more courageous in what we say and do with ourselves and with our clients?
Amy, I appreciate the radical truth that you
just seems like a hard phrase.
We keep talking about this over and over again in every single situation about coaching. Yeah. And I think that it reflects in everybody's conversation here: transparency, authenticity, and vulnerability. How crucial transparency, authenticity, and vulnerability is in every aspect of coaching. When we are marketing, when we are contracting with a coach, with a client, when we are in the middle of a coaching conversation, transparency, authenticity, and vulnerability. That to me is such a crucial aspect and such a beautiful point of the core competencies, right? The core competencies asking us to be transparent, authentic, and vulnerable. And to me, this human-to-human relationship that we have with our clients, if we really put ourselves in that place of transparency, authenticity, and vulnerability without having to create an image, without having to solve the problem, without having to, have the answers, without having to feel the pressure that I need to perform, all of that will be, to me, the foundational point for everything else to be created.
And I want to add one more term to that list you just gave, at least managing perceptions. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I get it for some of you, just starting out, that you want to create that perception. But going back to Ilias's, what Ilias just listed, all those things about us being transparent, us being authentic. And those things are the best perception you can give anybody. So if I ask the question back, now that we put on the table here, transparency, vulnerability, authenticity, and what was your term again, Amy, that you said? Managing perceptions. Managing
perception. If you put those words back to your scenario, your hot topic that you brought here to the conversation, how does that relate? Vince.
So it was interesting because as I think more of really one of the groups that I really want to coach with is emerging leaders. Because I remember as a young leader and being afraid to ask questions, afraid to be authentic, all of those things. Because as a leader, I always felt like we had to have all the answers. Okay. And so I want to help people because I remember my younger self feeling that way. So I know younger leaders or emerging leaders are feeling that. And coaching gives them that place that's safe and it's not going to go anywhere. And they can talk out loud the things that they're afraid to say. So yeah, it totally resonates with where I'm at. Mm-hmm. And that's just, I'm really bringing myself to where I'm at because in a way, and we talked about this during training, but like, in a little way, I felt like imposter, but then I'm thinking, no, I bring a lot to coaching and that skill I have that I'm continuing to learn. So yeah, it just is helping me stay in the day. But those words really ring true today.
So Vince, now that you've made this connection, what is the commitment moving forward?
Just carry those into my coaching conversations, but also coaching myself on that. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to not have all the answers. I think that's probably what used to fuel perfectionism. Because I was waiting for that best product before I put myself out there. And it's like, people aren't paying attention as much as you think they are. So practice it. Mm-hmm. So that would be my answer.
Thank you, Vince. And I see Eric with your hand up. You're muted and we can't hear you.
Sorry, I think I muted and then unmuted myself. Sorry. I was going to relate it back to the group coaching in that what I'm doing right now, one of the group courses that I'm teaching is on value proposition. And I oftentimes have to remember the same thing that I'm coaching on. And that is like, if not you, who? And we, with the real estate space, there's always that sense of imposter syndrome or that sense of does somebody else know more than me? And if somebody else knows more than I do, am I really the right agent for that client? And, that's obviously a slippery slope because you're always going to be in a position where there's somebody who knows more than you. But the reality is is that our clients don't come to us because we know the most. That's not why they come to us for coaching. It's not why they come to us as real estate professionals. They come to us because we make them feel significant, because we make them feel heard, because we make them feel we empower them to make decisions where other people might tell them what to do. And there's so much skill that we have as human beings that is the more important to our clients than the practical knowledge we have about that particular situation. And I think that's, for me, it's interesting because I'm teaching that, but I have to remember that as a coach the same way that I'm teaching that to real estate professionals.
Well said, Eric.
I want to repeat what you just said here, because I think it's so important for us to keep in mind. Clients don't come with us because we know it all. We have everything put together. We have all the answers. We are they don't come to us because of that. There is always someone that knows better than we do. There is always someone that has more expertise than we do, more experience than we do. And that's but you know, client. So that's the question here. And before, Ed, I see your hand over there. That's the question for everyone. Why do clients choose you?
Well, they talked to us, right? They connected. There was some kind of energy rapport that was created in that conversation because of us, I think, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think because we listen. Like in my case, I feel like it's because you know, to a great extent, it's because I listen.
Yeah.
Can you build on that, Hen, for a second? Because what is it they're getting when they're heard?
I think being heard and seen is something that's very rare in our world, honestly. So that's number one. And the quality of challenging and questioning really improves when you listen. They see that when you actually start coaching, that you've actually listened to them, that you're not just imposing your past experiences, knowledge, biases. We all come with our biases. That you're actually listening, that you're actually in that situation and have pretty much blocked everything else out. I think to a great extent, you know, relatability. Sometimes I think I like Rachel's topic a lot, and I think relatability has you know, it may attract people to you initially, but I feel like, for me at least, when they see that I listen and that's showing up in the quality of my responses, they don't care anymore if I seem like I'm relatable. So yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So they come to you first because there is something that attracts them to work with you. And then as they continue to work with you, they can see the value and the listening and the skills and the structure that you bring to the coaching conversation that is very valuable to them. And then support them in continuing.
I feel that affects the decision that's being made, right? So even if whether it's the coachee themselves or the sponsor, because the sponsor typically has an agenda, not in an evil way, right? If they feel like they're being, because you kind of coach the sponsor too, right? In a corporate setting. So if they feel like they're being listened to in what you come up with, the program you design or your approach, yeah, that does attract them to want to work with you.
Yeah. And I want to emphasize that, you know, all the coaches here in the room, plus the other 50,000 coaches that exist in the world, 60,000 members of the IZF, they also listen, right? They also have the framework. What makes them what makes the client out of the 60,000 coaches around the room choose you, right? And that is the choice that the client is making every day that they come. I want to talk with Hind. I want to talk with Rachel. I want to talk with Francesca. Right? That is something for us to be very mindful of. There are all of these 60,000 coaches that have all of these skills over there, but none of them can be Elias. Only I can be myself. And this is something for us also to be mindful of. If I try to be Amy, I'm not going to be the best coach that I can be.
He tries sometimes.
You're so good.
You look alike. I think it works initially.
And Ed is waiting patiently here. Ed, you had something to bring to the table here.
Well, yeah, I'm really enjoying this, so I'm not sure if I'm now going to shift things. So, hope that's okay.
No, please.
It's funny. I brought in this coaching versus mentoring, and I was reflecting how much am I actually mentoring. I'm probably more than I want to admit. So, I mean, I've got to own it. And yet, I had someone today say, well, what do you think? And what I did was reflect back what I heard them say. And the only thing that I thought was, gee, there's a continuum of experience here for you that you're navigating and filtering. Yes, it was through the lens of what I saw. So this is the dilemma is how do it's the concept of being nothing is something I've really been trying to really embrace, because I think when I am nothing in terms of an ism or an it or a what, I can become fully present with that person. And yet I know they say, oh, Ed, what do you think? And I almost always do it back at you now, because I used to, I could fill in that space. And then the experience was, well, nah, Ed, you're not really right. Okay, fair enough. Good. So thank you. What is right? And so I realized, oh man, let's just skip that step.
Yeah.
And yet I'm very aware that at least when there's professional overlap, that dialogue emerges. So I don't know if this is the right technique or not, but I've been trying to use this reflect back mindset, which for me is my way of staying engaged with that person. I don't know if it necessarily fits with transparency, authenticity, and vulnerability. The vulnerability is there when someone says, "Hey, Ed, you're all wet." Good. I'm it's like, okay, great. Tell me where I'm all wet, and because that's really a reflection of the client. But I'm just sort of wrestling with this stuff still. You've watched me over the last 4 years of life go from the advice monster to it's gone from a dire wolf down to maybe a squirrel. It's still there. It's a squirrel. It's a squirrel, but it's still there. So yeah.
That's so beautiful, Ed.
What it is, and you're catching yourself. That's
Yes.
And you're shifting the dynamic. The thing I find with this is that first of all, we have to really ground ourselves strongly in the belief that the client is truly resourceful, right?
Oh yeah.
And I know you all do. I'm not suggesting you don't, but we have to stay there, right?
Mm-hmm.
When our ego gets at play, like, oh, I got the answer to this. But it's also in our listening. Because what I find is the clients you just said it, Ed, and that's what I usually say is like, well, wait a minute, you just said something a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly sounds like this is what you're asking me. And they don't even know it, but if we're in solution mind, we don't hear it. Right? We have to, that's that presence piece. Mm-hmm. And really sharpening your listening, because they almost always say it long before they ask for it from you.
My favorite movie is The Wizard of Oz.
Right.
And it's not about there's no place like home. It is about you actually have a brain, you actually have a heart, you actually have the courage. You just aren't aware.
Yep.
So let's bring that out in you, which is already there. And so when I get this, what do you think? It's been really very helpful. But boy, I'll tell you, Man, that is a journey.
Wonderful. Yeah. And the other thing that I want to point out here is that usually when we get into the solution, into the answer, and even the client is asking, what do you think? We are most likely on the surface,
Yes.
trying to find a solution, trying to solve the problem, trying to find the Band-Aid, right? So for me, when the client asks me, what do you think? First of all, there is no cannot in coaching, right? Coaching is it's all about the gray area. It's all about the human interaction. It's all about the mindset of the coach. So if a client asks me, what do you think? Immediately for me, it's not necessarily the answer or what I'm going to say, how I'm going to reflect back. What I cannot, the ICF, there is an ICF ghost here looking at me and it's going to slap my hand. No, not about that, right? It's all about, we are the client, myself, in this moment in the coaching conversation, we are in solution mode. Because if it is truly a transformative process, the client immediately understands that I don't have answers for them. This is about them, what is happening, the process that is happening within them. So for me, it's not about what to do. It's when a client asks, what do you think? It's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call for all of us. What can I do here to support the client? Not to make the client wrong, but to support the client go a layer deeper. Vince, you've been waiting patiently.
It's okay. Couple things came to mind. The last one was just kind of, I was listening to Ed talk, and like if somebody says, what do you think? And I was like I, grew up in corporate, you had to have all the answers. The great thing is I don't have to have the answers now. But one of the things I say now is kind of like, it doesn't matter what I think. Like, what do you think? Because what if I give you advice, right? And it's the wrong advice, kind of like Ed was talking about. They're like, oh, you're all full of it. That's not what it is. It's like, I'm not here to give you the answers, right? I mean, if I have to, I can take my coaching cap off. But I've found just to kind of reflect it back on them. And that, to your point, it's trying to get them beyond the surface to like probe into what the answer is. Because usually they're blocked and they just need something to get them to start thinking for themselves. The other thing I was thinking of is, as we go back to why they choose us, one of the things I've learned is you'll be different for everybody, depending on who you're coaching. And a couple of people I coach right now, they mostly need me to hold space. And when I hear something they need to hear, I tell them, kind of that reflecting to them. I heard you say, I don't know if you caught this. Did you hear yourself say, because they don't, like Amy said, they're not listening, they're just talking. But when they realize what they're saying, it's the answer they're trying to get to. So I have found, like, what is it? Wait a second more, wait another second. Like, don't speak, don't talk, stop myself from saying something.
Thank you for that, Vincent. I'm going to see if I can connect here what David and Rachel and even Francesca brought to the conversation here as well. This idea of what is the proposition of coaching, right? The proposition of coaching is not to solve a problem. The proposition of coaching is to provide the client the space to process their situation, their context. So I say this thinking of David, it is like you're there. And, when I was hearing you say your particular scenario there, David, even though you may be new to coaching, it feels like the guinea pig, but the bottom line here is that you providing them with the space. If you focus on, I am here to provide them with the space, you as a human being, you can provide that space. And then, we say this in coach training all the time, right? You can coach from day one. We all can provide clients with a good space. What we do as we gather in experience is that we start bringing more tools and more understanding and more experience and a deeper understanding of the best practices of the profession that we bring to make that space even more effective. But right now, we are already doing that. Everybody here is doing in some fashion or another. With Rachel,
Including us, Ilias.
yeah, including us, that's exactly the process. That's what we are doing, and we will continue to do forever and ever. You know, we provide the space based on our experience. How can I bring things here to make that space even more effective? With Rachel, for me, is the same thing. Yes, there are all of these juicy topics around that particular context. There is the organization that you mentioned, right, Rachel? There are the specific nuances of that particular client. And, you know, as you were saying, that reminded me of one day a long-term client that I coached and continue to coach her. She came one day, this was during the pandemic, and she came with a topic that was very politically charged and not in synchronicity with my points of view. And I was right there in that moment is like, it's not my job to coach her into this political view or this political view or this idea of what I'm here to coach her. I'm here to provide the space for her to process in her context. My point of view is irrelevant here, right? So I don't know if this helps, Rachel, but how can you, the idea here is how can you think more of the process that is happening in the client without the need to have to be hands-on? Make sense?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think on that point, what comes up for me is that I don't need to draw any conclusions about what is actually happening in that situation. And I think I'm feeling compelled to do so because I want to be in the best interest of the client. But also what you said, Amy, absolutely true. They are resourceful and whole, and my job is to reflect back what they've said and what they say they're experiencing and ask them what they want to do about that. You know, if there's an action, you know, that needs to come out of that or not. But that's not my job to draw a conclusion about whether it's actually happening. Is that what you're trying to say, kind of?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I know, Amy, you sound like, I want to hear what you have to say. It looks like you want to say something, but I wanted to go back to the transparency, authenticity, and vulnerability. Immediately that resonated with me because I think I can also, it's our job as coaches, and we have a responsibility if something is coming up for me, that I need to share that with permission of the client and say, like, I am feeling this conflict. You know, I don't know the whole situation or whatever. But there's a way to do that, which reflects back, but also shares my uncertainty, vulnerability. But the bottom line is I'm here for her to support her with however she chooses to move forward.
Beautiful.
And I was just going to ask Rachel, because maybe I heard you wrong in that heard you saying, you know, how do you go that layer deeper when the client presents this, but you suspect it's that? Was that what?
Yeah, I don't suspect something opposite, but I think it's this fundamental, to me, sometimes, particularly in this situation, the conflict is that we can't change other people. So the only thing we can do is change the way we respond, right? Like if I understand correctly, that's kind of the basis of coaching, right? Like, how do we empower people, or maybe that's not the right word, but help facilitate or guide them to to have agency to take the steps that are in their best interest. But I could see from the other point of view, if someone is particularly, if they are experienced bias, microaggressions, whatever, like that is a systematic problem, as well. So it's very conflictual because I'm basically saying them, well, you need to change yourself to be able to deal with this. And that is a fundamental problem in identity-based issues. If you're telling the victim that they need to change themselves to respond to what's systematically happening to them. So that is like such a huge moral conflict for me in that situation. And that's also what I'm struggling with.
Oh, Rachel, I so appreciate you bringing this up because this is definitely something for us to continue the conversation. There is so many aspects of what you are sharing here. How does a coach act in that particular moment? So I'm going to write this down because we need to revisit this topic for sure here. I'm mindful of time here. Has her hand over there, and I want to touch base with Francesca as well before we close.
Yeah, I'm just going, what Rachel said resonated with the recent experience of mine. I'm not going to go into the details, but actually what I have learned is the coaching experience itself empowers the client. So she identified the bias situation before I saw it, just because our conversations empowered her. And what she ended up doing is you actually have to change. And changing does not mean that as a victim, you're taking responsibility. It just means that you're raising your hand and making your voice heard. And she did that. And she's in a very different place now. And the situation has been identified in her organization, and steps were taken towards the manager who actually, did that. And I had no clue. She identified it. So just trust that you're empowering the client.
Thank you for that. And it comes back to in the simplest situation, but in the most complex situation of coaching, it all goes back to coach the client, not the situation, right? Mm-hmm. Coach the client. And the client will feel empowered to decide what they want to do next in that particular situation. Thank you for that. Francesca, I want to touch base with you about that all of that we were talking about, the transparency, the vulnerability, the being authentic with the client. How does that affect those conversations that you were having when you were presenting yourself as a coach?
First of all, sorry, but I didn't sleep very well tonight, so I am being transparent and vulnerable. Today, I'm really not in tune with no one.
That is okay, Francesca.
It happens. No, it makes me reflect on myself, actually, not on the other people. It makes me reflect on the kind of relationships that I've built over the years, no? Because why do people now see me only in a way? Why people are not anymore interested in me? Maybe because I scare them now, because they think I know, because I'm a coach, or maybe because they are just not interested in me. But what I realized organizing some workshops is that people really want to be heard, as you say. People want to be listened. And when they are listened, they feel like validated, I think, no? They feel that you are validating them, and they feel like an iceberg. We are on the top of the iceberg where we are scared and everything, and they feel that they can explore safely what is behind, that is the hope.
Thank you for that, Francesca. I appreciate it. I appreciate the inquiry that you are having, because this is what we do as coaches, especially when we're starting, but in general, even when we are very experienced coaches, this inquiry, how am I showing up? How am I having this conversation? How can I calibrate? How can I tweak? So I appreciate that you are going through that process, that it's a very healthy process. Thank you, everyone. I'm very mindful of time here because we need to end at the top of the hour. And I would love to have your quick takeaways from our conversation, but I have a few announcements. First of all, Prime Coaching Academy just released a Prime exam prep. So if you are getting close to going for the credentialing exam with the ICF, the prep is there. It's a self-paced program for you. And if you know of anyone that is getting ready for the exam, there is one of the beautiful thing about this exam prep is that there is a whole sample exam for you to go through. So you will actually experience a simulation of the exam. And we just mystify a lot of the things about the exam prep. It's no fluff. It's what you need, and it's very, very direct and exact. What Amy and I believe that it's exactly what you need to be successful in this exam prep. Okay. Prime Space, don't forget to listen to our episodes, our podcast. Go to Apple Podcast and Spotify, subscribe. Right now I'm releasing an episode a week, so there is always something new there for you to listen. Click on the 5-star there to give us a good rating and share with your colleagues as well. We will not have a Prime Hour in July, but we're going to have the summer break in August. We have the Prime Hour there, and we already published in the Prime Coaching Academy website all the dates for August, September, and October. So put on your calendar for you to be here with us. And this is a wonderful thing that we want to announce is that beginning in August, we are going to start offering CCEs. So if you get here and if you stay from beginning to the end, you're going to get one CCE that you can apply for your renewal of your certification. And that is free, right? Where do you get free CCEs? Here at Prime Coaching Academy and Prime Hour. All of the communicate. Oh, I even have fireworks. All of the communications from Prime Hour now comes directly from Prime Coaching Academy and not myself. So just be mindful of that. So keep that in when you receive those emails in your inbox. It's a good practice to put info at primecoachingacademy.com in your address book so that it doesn't go to junk. So be mindful of that. And one more thing. Amy and I would like to start creating some coaching demos. We want to coach, really coach, not mentor coach. So we are going to be emailing you, sending you emails. If you would like to be a part of this would be a 30-minute recording. And we want to put those demos publicly so that people can see and have the experience of coaching. You know how valuable that is, right? You in your coach training, you were always seeking, where can I watch coaching demos? That's what we are trying to create. So we are going to tap into you for you to be a client, for us to do the recording and to put these recordings publicly. Okay, so that you
friends and family too will take.
Friends and family too as well. We want to create lots of demos. So
your sane family. We all have that one. No, that is that one.
So we have 30 seconds here. What is one word that you want to say here that you're taking away from our conversation here today? I'm going to start calling you. Please put yourself off mute and just say your word. And let me start with Rachel.
Useful.
Francesca.
Grateful to belong to this community.
Vince.
Empowering.
Eric.
Trust.
Ed.
Whole.
David.
Present.
Hand.
Vulnerability.
Amy.
Community.
Elias is happy. I'm happy today. This is fantastic. I will see you not in July, but I will see you in August, and wait for that email from me. Mark your calendars so that we can be here together and you can get your CCEs. Thank you, everyone. Any last word, Amy?
Just want to remember, you can email us at info@primecoachingacademy.com, and it goes to both Elias and I if you want to be coached for a demo or know someone who does.
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
Hey
you.
guys, happy summer.